Depending on where you're at in the state, you've had a lot of rain over the past couple weeks, and Josh, that's really impacted the summer crops.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen pretty much throughout the state that our planted acres, or what folks have been able to get in, is relatively low. Now, what is in is really good, but we've had quite a bit less actual planted acres than we'd like to see at this time. But Dave, it's not just the rain; it's also been the temperatures. We've been really cool these last couple weeks. You know, our typical prime planting periods, if you look at soil temperatures, they've been around 58 to 60 for our 3-day average, and so we see kind of that kind of situation leads a lot of growers to be a little hesitant to go in and put some seed in the ground, and the seed that we have been able to put in the ground has been relatively slow out of the ground. So kind of really nice conditions, getting a nice good soil profile of moisture, but it's really slowed us down quite a bit.
This is kind of the prime time for planting over the next few, well, this kind of 2-week period here. What if we don't get the seed in the ground during that prime period? When is too late? That's my question.
Yeah, so too late is always a weird term, because it's never too late to get everything planted, especially if you have good conditions. As we start to warm up over the next week or so, then the plants will start to really come out of the ground really quickly, really get early season growth. But the big question we always have with later planted is, what's July going to do? And that July and early August are what really gets us. That's typically when a lot of our crops planted a little later, especially during the second, third week of May, are going through reproductive growth during that time. They're very sensitive to heat. They're very sensitive to drought. They really need to be coddled a little bit and really kept nice. And if we have a really rough July with no rain, 100-degree temperatures for a prolonged period of time, we see a lot of our yield potential go down substantially. So when asking the question, what is too late, it really depends on what's going to happen a couple of months from now.
But it does look like some things are growing in the summer crop fields right now, these weeds.
Yeah, that's going to be probably one of our biggest challenges this year. We have a lot of pests in our summer crop fields, and weed management is going to be one of those big issues. If you have a field that is notoriously weedy and that hasn't been planted, we might want to go back in with that second round of burn down before we go into a pre-plant program. This is going to be, with all this moisture, with this rising heat, we are going to see a lot of weeds start coming out of the ground. So, and the unfortunate thing is, depending on the weed, they typically outgrow our crops early season. So that's why they are weeds, and they have that kind of that mechanism to them. So we really need to make sure, especially this year, that we're starting out clean. We got a good pre-plant herbicide program that's going to be very critical to make sure we're successful on throughout the rest of the season.
So as we move through the next couple months, there's an opportunity with more insect pressure too, correct?
Yeah, and we're actually already starting to see some of our insect pressure. We're starting to see a lot of our worms starting coming into some of our corn and sorghum areas. We have seen reports of a lot of chewing and a lot of feeding. That's one thing that you're going to want to address. Most of the time we're seeing worms right now be very small, and so they're easily controlled. What we don't want to see is them get out of hand, because if they grow bigger, or if they just continue to feed on that crop, they can just completely destroy that crop, and it'll be a loss. So one thing that we're going to have to watch really early here, and based on everything else, with as green as it looking like this summer might be early season, that's always that telltale sign that we might have other pests start coming in. When we get a lot of the road ditches and the tree line areas are really green, that's where a lot of our pests can kind of sit and wait for that crop to get ready and then move into that crop field.
So plant now and pray for July.
We can only hope, Dave. We can only hope.
Thank you much, Josh Lofton, Cropping Systems Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.